As dawn broke upon the porcelain hills of Nizantralithia, the first light danced upon towers of blueprints and scaffolding that had stood proudly unfinished for decades, monuments not of progress, but of perpetual prelude. The citizens, conditioned through generations of ceremonial optimism, greeted these skeletal structures with reverent nods, as one might acknowledge an old friend who never speaks but always lingers. It was in this sacred culture of conceptual completion that the Royal Bureau of Aspirational Infrastructure unveiled its newest masterpiece, a map of projects so ambitious that their very impossibility was deemed a form of genius. In Nizantralithia, one need not build a bridge, merely dreaming of one's secured eternal accolades. The kingdom's economy, a creature of myth and selective arithmetic, was described in courtly verses and lavish charts, each more detached from reality than the last. The Minister of Fiscal Alchemy, an expert in transmogrifying deficits into triumphs, announced a reduction in poverty by redefining it out of existence. If one cannot afford food, he proclaimed, perhaps they have achieved spiritual satiety. Applause thundered through the marble halls as golden coins, minted for ceremonial purposes only, were scattered among the elite like confetti of deception. Meanwhile, the real peasants, forgotten in valleys of forgotten policies, watched their stomachs shrink into symbols of patriotic endurance. Healthcare in Nizantralithia was a marvel of magical minimalism, wherein hospitals were abundant in blueprints and ribbon cuttings, but scarce in medicine and functioning equipment. The high priestess of public wellness held elaborate rituals to bless imaginary beds, accompanied by incense made from burnt policy drafts. When citizens grew ill, they were encouraged to pray to the spirit of resilience or purchase overpriced potions imported through the royal network of monopolistic traders. Critics who questioned this arrangement were accused of sacrilege against the divine equilibrium of accessible inaccessibility. The environment, too, received the kingdom's tender neglect. Forests whispered their final elegies as they were replaced by concrete dreams and ceremonial statues of flora. The Ministry of Sustainable Illusions dutifully planted trees made of recycled reports, claiming carbon neutrality through the power of narrative alone. Rivers, once sacred, had become serpents of sludge, yet officials proclaimed their waters strategically pigmented to reflect the kingdom's dynamic palette. Nature wept, but in silence, lest its sobs be deemed subversive. Perhaps most fascinating of all was the kingdom's approach to digital governance, wherein connectivity was measured not by access, but by the number of ceremonial Wi-Fi routers installed in photo-worthy locations. The Grand Vizier of technological mysticism declared Nizantralithia a cyber-utopia, despite the fact that villagers still sent smoke signals due to temporary modernization latency. Public services, allegedly digitized, required citizens to upload their souls into archaic systems guarded by captchas more intelligent than the agencies behind them. Yet no failure was admitted, only adaptive recalibration strategies perpetually underway. In foreign affairs, the kingdom walked the tightrope of exaggerated neutrality, waving its flags with such chaotic grace that no one could quite discern their allegiance. International summits were attended with pomp and choreographed humility, wherein delegates performed the ancient art of nodding profoundly while saying nothing. Treaties were signed with invisible ink, and partnerships were forged with nations equally skilled in rhetorical acrobatics. In Nizantralithia, diplomacy was less about engagement and more about the illusion of relevance, a performance executed flawlessly. And so, the tale of Nizantralithia spiraled on, ornate, circular, and devoid of substance, with each year ushering in new policies carved from the same block of vacuous ambition. Its people, ever loyal in their resigned irony, continue to live between the lines of proclamations and the margins of feasibility. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon of accountability, a new motto was etched into the kingdom's celestial banner: "Why fix what dazzles?" And thus, under a sky of polished propaganda and weather forecasts approved by committee, the dream of governance endured, not in deeds, but in the spectacle of their absence.